So I want to touch base with everybody about the case. It's going to actually take several weeks before I have perfect safety in place. So I think that's too long for people to wait to know about things. And also, I think I have enough safety measures in place to talk about certain things. I'll just omit a little more than I would have if I had everything completed. So I'll explain that. The type of case that we filed is a petition for mandamus action. And what that is it's you're compelling the court to make someone act according to the law. Usually, you file that against a government entity or a law enforcement agency or somebody like that that has a duty of care that they've breached to follow the law. But you can also file it against a corporation. And prior to working on this case, I hadn't known that. So I'm filing it against a social media company, which right now I won't say which one. As soon as everything is completed, I will. But it's a company and their parent company. And I'm filing it on behalf of myself, a third party witness to crime, which you can do. So they agreed on October 16th that I do have a complex civil case, and they agreed that they have jurisdiction as well. And for right now, I won't say which court that is, although all the records are set in the public database to confidential, so it can't be searched. So that's good. So as soon as I filed this and it was accepted and the judge signed off on it, I also at the same time filed a stipulated confidentiality order, and that would be to protect my personal information because when you file a lawsuit, in the caption you have to put all your personal information, and there are different ways to protect it from certain parties. This is the easiest way. If and sometimes courts will agree. The law allows, like federal rules of civil procedure make it to where they can agree to do it sometimes without the other party signing off on it. A lot of times it's something that though they'll have each party agree, like, okay, we agree to keep each other's information confidential from whichever parties they cite, and they sign off on it and then show the court that they were trying to work it out before court. But in this case, I'm not going to try to work anything out with wanted fugitives, and I'm not going to trust the social media companies to keep me safe. So I want the court to do that. So, but I'm not wanting to have to go through a lot of rigmarole. I just want the court to do it. So they decided that with the confidentiality order, they were not going to do that because in their courtroom, different judges are different and they never do stipulate it that way. They always require it to be done with all the parties agreeing to it. So I would have to serve them first. If I serve them first, then they have all of my personal information, and by way of law, they don't have to keep it confidential. They could say that they're not going to sign that, and then I've opened myself up to them sharing that with the fugitives, and I don't want to do that. So I right away, when I saw that, filed a motion for a protective order, which I'd been avoiding because that usually involves a hearing, which takes more time. And sure enough, the very next morning, and that's a good thing that shows that they care enough to get right back to me on that. And they said, yeah, well, you need to go ahead and get a hearing date. So I put that in the top right corner to be determined, and we're waiting on that's pending the judge giving me a date. So we'll have a hearing for the protective order, which I think will be granted. And I misunderstood that message because the file clerk wrote notice of service, which that's not usually that's only a phrase you use when you've served someone. So I didn't understand. And then I saw where the confidentiality order was revoked. So it didn't show that anything had been served on their website. So I wrote to him and I said, why did they decide to go ahead and serve? Because courts can do that. And then on top of that, with removing the confidentiality, and he said, "Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. I meant that that's a notice to let you know that you have to serve the confidentiality order in order for it to be approved, and it has to be signed off by everybody." And I said, "Oh, okay. Now I understand." So I'm glad that all I had done in response to that was draft the protective order motion and send it to the court. And not, I thought, well, now that they have my info anyway, I'll try to get them to sign a confidentiality order, and I'll go ahead and send them a bunch of redacted documents and get them served. I'm glad that didn't happen, although I'd really like to get this over with. It would open me up to them having my info. So it's great that nobody's been served. We're waiting on the protective order hearing. Everything's ready to go as soon as that is in place. And then the social media company will be served, and they will, by way of law, not be able to share any of my information. Also, there's another way to do this, which is a motion to redact, but in that courtroom, that would take months. So I don't want to wait months. So I think it's safe enough to just, my information's there. It can't be searched in the public database. And with the protective order in place, they can't share it with the fugitives, which is all I want. I don't care if the social media company has it. And I wouldn't even care if the public had it, except for that could be viewed by the fugitives or their minions. So uh, we're asking for something very reasonable. We're asking just for them to comply with the law. Now, I've also filed an ADR, which is an alternative dispute resolution form, which means that they have the option of deciding to forego bothering with a hearing or anything else. If they will just agree that it's a matter of law to do what I'm asking them to do and do it, no hearing. So I'm asking for that. I'm also asking for a few other things, and a lot of exhibits have been uploaded. Everything's ready to go. Now we're going to build off of this. Once that information, if we win, is sent to law enforcement, if law enforcement doesn't act, I can file a similar action against them, and I can do that from the United States as a third party, because I did make them aware of this months ago. And then if that information is sent to them all these months later, then hey, it's obvious that they're not doing their job, are they? So we'll do something about that. And before that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to file a couple of complaints to get their eyes back on this. They actually do have to respond to complaints. So the service on an action like that overseas is kind of complicated, and I can talk about that later, but it can be done. And we will also build off of this to the other social media companies. Also, if we don't win, there are some other things we can do besides this too. So, yeah, that's what we're doing. I think also, even if it doesn't work, you got to realize that the social media company that I'm doing this with, they will see all of this. It's not like there's going to be a bunch of robots responding electronically to some email. This is going to be a legal department knowing that they're being sued and having to look at it and having to respond. They're going to go look into who these people are and what they've been doing for real. So I think that alone would be worth something because, you know, think about the family vloggers and people that have done some pretty weird and disturbing things on YouTube and been removed for far less than this. So I really think they won't want the liability here because what I'm showing them is that, at this point, they might not have liability for, the first time this person goes out and does a crime, obviously, and they weren't aware. But we've made them aware and we've made them aware repeatedly. That's another thing in a mandamus action you have to show is that and that's why we first wanted to do all of that stuff for all of those months because it shows that you exhausted every avenue before you made the court have to get involved. They like for you to show that. So we've done that. And so, yeah, the only option left is to try to get somebody to compel people to act in the way that they're supposed to. So that's what we're doing. And I think there's a good chance we'll win. But if not, there's a good chance we'll win because they're going to see this and they're going to think, wow, if he actually does go and kill somebody, then the liability for that is huge. It's not like what I'm trying to do is to hurt the social media company. I'm actually helping them. They could avoid some very serious, expensive liability down the road and also moral liability. Would you really want to know that you allowed this person to do any of this stuff? So that's what we're doing. And we can talk in more detail later, but that's your update for now. And also, once that motion's in place, I'll be real specific, which I'm just avoiding certain things right now to keep everything as safe as possible. Thank you. Have a good one.